The twin suns of Elindra rose over the crystalline spires of the royal capital, washing the city in pale gold light that shimmered off every surface. Princess Lyra stood on the highest balcony of the central tower, her silver cloak fluttering behind her as the breeze swept in from the valley plains. Though she was born to rule, her heart often shifted between confidence and burden, for her people expected strength beyond measure. She was brave, disciplined, and unyielding, yet she had never found a true equal among her own kind. Her world valued power, heritage, and tradition, but she longed for sincerity, courage, and while not for many cycles, her empire had known peace until the storm that arrived from the distant human territories. A diplomatic escort vessel had been damaged during a sudden spatial anomaly and landed near the Elindran coast. The event shook her council, for humans were known to be unpredictable, inventive, and fiercely resilient. Many in the royal chamber feared the arrival of any outsider who carried the spirit of a species that thrived in adversity. Yet Lyra saw it as a sign from the threads of fate. Something unknown had entered her world, and she felt pulled toward it as if destiny itself had whispered her name. Among the survivors was a young human, soldier named Ray. He was not of noble birth. He had no grand lineage to recite. He carried no ornate armor or elaborate insignia. What he had was grit, discipline, and heart. When the rescue patrol brought him into the capital, the Elindran medical teams were astonished at how durable his body was despite the injuries he sustained. His spirit, however, remained unbroken. Even when surrounded by foreign faces, he stood with calm determination. Lyra observed him from a distance through the transparent gallery walls. Sensing that something about him drifted beyond simple curiosity, Ray, meanwhile, had arrived in a place of gleaming towers and elegant patterns carved into every corner of the massive structures. The Elindrans moved with poised grace, their forms slim and slightly elongated, their eyes radiant with shifting colors. Though they treated him with caution, they showed no cruelty. His training had taught him to stay alert, but as he walked the corridors under escort, he found no hostility, only interest. He wondered about their culture, their expectations, and why the strange shimmering towers seemed to resonate faintly when he passed them. Princess Lyra met him for the first time in the Grand Hall, when the council summoned him for formal assessment. The chamber's crystal pillars glowed with a faint pulse, a sign that ancient Elindran energies were attentive to the presence of a foreign being. Ray stood tall, though he felt the weight of their eyes. Lyra stepped forward with a calm stride, her voice soft yet firm as she addressed the council and him. She did not regard him as a threat. She regarded him as a possible ally. When she asked him to introduce himself, Ray answered with clarity and respect. His words were simple, his tone unwavering. In that moment, Lyra found in him a steadiness that many of her own noble peers lacked. His honesty held no pretense. His posture held no arrogance. The council, however, remained uncertain. They debated whether humans possessed hidden motives. They questioned whether Ray's crash was accidental or strategic. Lyra listened but saw deeper. She understood that beneath his uniform and scars was a spirit shaped by hardship and bold choices. Ray soon became a guest within the central tower. Though he was technically under observation, he felt no confinement. Elindran guards watched him, but they never treated him with disdain. Lyra visited often, sometimes under the guise of routine evaluation, but more often driven by curiosity. She asked about human worlds, human trials, and human beliefs. Ray answered honestly, describing starships, cities, and the stubborn resolve of his species. In return, he asked about Elindran traditions, the crystalline architecture, and the gleaming structures that flickered with ambient energy. Through these exchanges, Lyra learned something that surprised her. Ray's mind carried a mixture of discipline and improvisation that Elendrans rarely blended. He could follow an order with precision, yet choose instinctively when a situation demanded creative deviation. Elendrans prized structure, yet Ray could navigate chaos without losing direction. She began to see him not as a guest, but as a reflection of traits her world had not embraced for centuries. On one afternoon, she took him to the palace courtyard, where towering crystalline trees grew alongside flowing streams of liquid light. The leaves hummed faintly as wind passed through them. Ray stepped forward in awe at the living luminescence. Lyra explained that her people communicated with these rare trees through soft resonance, allowing them to sense environmental shifts long before storms arrived. Ray placed a hand on one of the glowing trunks and felt a gentle vibration travel up his arm. Lyra watched his expression. She saw humility, wonder, and a spark of bold enthusiasm that inspired her. She spoke of her duties as a princess, the expectations of strength, the pressure to lead without error. Ray responded by sharing stories of human commanders who carried similar burdens, and how humans believed that strength included acknowledging vulnerability. That idea startled her. On Elendra, vulnerability was viewed as a crack in one's foundation. But Ray's words made her question the rigidity of her upbringing. He told her that true leaders were shaped not by perfection, but by the courage to face the uncertain. Lyra found that idea liberating. As days passed, Ray proved himself adaptable to Elendran customs. He trained alongside their soldiers in the courtyard arena. Though he lacked the fluid grace of their movements, he compensated with human endurance and tactical improvisation. Lyra observed one session where Ray faced 3 Elendran trainees in a controlled exercise. The Elendrans moved with swift arcs, intending to overwhelm him. Ray responded with focused footwork and compact defense, weaving between their strikes and redirecting their momentum. His final maneuver gently brought one trainee to the ground without harm. Lyra felt a surge of admiration. She recognized that his strength came not from superior force, but from resilience and strategic thought. The council eventually approached Lyra with concerns. Some feared Ray's growing influence. Others worried that she spent too much time with him. They argued that the presence of a human could disrupt political balance. Lyra stood before them with calm authority. She stated that Ray posed no threat and that his perspective could enhance their understanding of the galaxy. When they pressed further, suggesting that a princess should not place her attention on a foreign soldier, she replied with unshaken confidence that leadership required an open mind. The council retreated, uneasy but respectful. One evening, a sudden tremor shook the capital as energy disturbances flickered across the sky. Ancient machinery buried beneath the planet awakened for the first time in generations. The Elendran scientists detected an expanding rift along the western horizon. If the rift grew unchecked, entire districts could collapse. Lyra immediately organized a response team. Ray stood beside her, prepared to help despite being an outsider. When they reached the site, crystalline formations cracked as waves of unstable energy surged outward. Elendran engineers scrambled to stabilize the containment pillars that regulated planetary resonance. Lyra coordinated with precision, issuing directions to her teams. Ray assisted by carrying equipment, reinforcing weakened structures, and supporting injured workers. At one critical moment, when a containment pillar tilted under the strain, Ray pushed with all his strength to keep it upright, while an Elendran engineer recalibrated its core. The effort nearly exhausted him, but he refused to yield. Lyra saw the determination in his eyes and realized that he possessed the same drive she had always been expected to show. Together they managed to stabilize the rift. The energy returned to normal. The sky settled into a soft glow. The workers, shaken but safe, looked at Ray with newfound respect. Lyra approached him, her expression calm yet filled with gratitude that she rarely expressed openly. She told him that his courage had protected her people. Ray simply nodded and replied that he did what any human trained to serve would do. Later that night, the tower halls were quiet as Lyra walked with Ray along the balcony that overlooked the capital. The stars shimmered like scattered crystals above them. She told him that she had always sought someone who understood the weight of responsibility and the balance between strength and humility. Ray listened without interruption. She said that among her own people, she often felt alone in her convictions. Ray responded by saying that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward regardless. In that moment, she realized that she had found what she sought for years: a mind unafraid to challenge itself, a will forged through struggle, a spirit equal to hers, though born from a distant world. She looked out over her city and felt a sense of clarity. Ray had changed her perspective. He had transformed her understanding of leadership, unity, and trust. The next cycle brought new celebrations. Elendran citizens gathered to honor the successful stabilization of the rift. Lyra stood before them with Ray present at her side. She introduced him as the human who risked everything to protect their world. The crowd responded with respectful silence, followed by warm applause. Even the council bowed in acknowledgement. Ray felt humbled by the recognition. He had never sought prestige. He only wanted to help. Lyra later invited Ray to a private observatory chamber filled with star maps and ancient Elendran lore. She told him that she believed their worlds would grow stronger through shared understanding. Ray agreed, saying that cooperation between species was more valuable than any isolated pride. His sincerity resonated with her. She realized that the boundaries between their cultures were nothing compared to the shared virtues they upheld. From that day forward, Ray became a symbol of unity on Elendra. Lyra worked closely with him to establish new diplomatic paths with humanity. Their alliance strengthened both civilizations, opening doors to new discoveries and mutual growth. Lyra often walked through the halls with renewed purpose. She no longer carried her duties alone. She had found someone who balanced her strength with honesty, someone who refused to surrender in crisis, someone who could stand beside her without fear or pretense. In the years that followed, Elendra flourished with innovation, inspired by human adaptability and Elendran precision. The cities expanded. The ancient resonance systems were upgraded. Cultural exchanges blossomed. Lyra's leadership matured into something admired across star systems. Ray remained by her side as an advisor, protector, and trusted equal. Their bond, shaped through trial and understanding, became a guiding force that influenced future generations of Elendrans and humans alike. Whenever Lyra looked at the horizon where the twin suns set in shimmering gold, she remembered the moment Ray arrived, a moment that changed everything. She had been brave long before he came, but through him she discovered new dimensions of courage. He had shown her that strength was not merely inherited, but forged through will. He had shown her that even a single human could transform the destiny of a world. And each time, Ray looked across Elendra's radiant landscape. He felt honored to have earned the trust of a princess whose spirit was equal to his. He knew he had found a place where courage was welcomed, and where his presence mattered. Together they shaped a future neither world could have achieved alone. The brave alien princess found her equal. One human transformed everything.